Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. On almost every one of these videos, I get some snide, snippety comments about the way that I pronounce the name of the city Shanghai. Because, I suppose, especially Americans have heard people say Shanghai with a ash sound, Shang. But you know what? It's a Chinese word. I live in China. It's pronounced Sheng, Shanghai, Sheng, like that. Sha, 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 like that. Anyway, so that's how we pronounce Shanghai. Anyway, we're going to answer a question today, so enough about pronunciation for all you pedantic people out there who want me to sound exactly like you, even though you live in an entirely different part of the world, speak with a completely different idiolect, probably dialect as well, had a completely different set of personal, linguistic, cultural experiences, and somehow you still expect everybody else in the world to sound exactly like you. Boo. Hiss to that. So, our question today comes from William Warden, who says, "Hello, Coach. I'm a big fan of yours." Thank you, William. Big fan of yours. And I'll tell you why. Because your question struck me as very sincere. And I'm a big fan of sincerity. So, William says, on the 5 steps to have a better life, you said to breathe correctly. How do I do that? Now, if you're not familiar with those 5 things, I've made a few videos where I talk about five things, 5 basic principles of athleticism that transcend athleticism and simply improve your quality of life. And that is how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you breathe, and how you think. And to ensure that each of those pushes you in a positive direction. And if any of those pushes you in a negative direction, flip that around. And most people understand right away. Eating better, yeah, that's a good idea. Moving better, yeah, that's a good idea. Get some exercise, right? Most people understand, have a good sleep schedule and you will be healthier. Have a positive attitude, think better, and you'll get more stuff done, right? But the breathing, that part confuses a lot of people, and William has a question about that. So he says, I'm a fat guy, but I'm on a weight loss mission by dieting and a lot of calisthenics and cardio. And since I was a kid, I was always doing that thing where I do shallow breath to hide my hugeness. How do I change this? And thank you for your time. William, you're very welcome to my time. Overcoming self-consciousness is a process. And it's very easy. Everybody falls into these traps where we feel like we have to put on a persona, put on a mask, put on an act of some kind for other people, for the public. And in your case, you feel like if you take a big, deep, full breath, you look fatter and people will judge you negatively for it. And they'll be like, oh, look at that guy. Look at that guy. Boo, boo. And that is a very powerful control mechanism over our behavior. Unfortunately, it's a negative one, and that's pushing you in a negative direction. So first of all, before we can change the way you breathe, we need to change the way you think. Remember the 5th one on that list. Move, eat, sleep, breathe, and think. Let's change the way you think for a minute. And let's go from what will other people think. And this may go contrary to not just how you feel, but maybe it's your whole culture. For example, in Thailand, my older brother lives in Bangkok, and we were having a conversation about how Asian cultures at least the ones we're familiar with, tend to have a culture of uniformity, a culture of conformity that we don't often see in the West. And there's an expression in the Thai language which translates to English as essentially, don't do that. People will look at you. People will look at you. And my brother is very outgoing. My brother Joseph, he's been on this channel a few times. Very outgoing, funny guy. And when he first moved to Thailand, people would often tell him, Joseph, people will look at you. And he would think, cool. And they'd be like, no, no, you don't understand. They will look at you. People will look at you. The meaning of this expression is basically, don't do that. You need to conform to what other people think and do, because you'll stand out like a sore thumb. That's bad. It's bad for people to look at you. And so this is something that is very deeply ingrained in many cultures, to stand out, to be different. Well, William, my friend, you are different. You are different. And that's okay to be different. Now we need to accept those differences. And I'm not saying accept the fact that you are fat and just deal with it and live with it. No, my friend, you want to make a positive change in your health. So to make a positive change in your health, you need to accept the fact that people will look at you, and that's okay. People will look at you, and that's okay. Some of them will care, most of them won't, and that's okay. Some of them might say mean things, and that's okay. Some of them might think negative thoughts, and that's okay. So take a deep breath. Fill up your belly with that air. You need it. So we need to change your thinking in order to change your breathing. Breath is intrinsically connected to our movement and to our voice. Voice is literally made of breath. And in order to express yourself completely as a human being, you must find that connection between breath, movement, voice, and self. This is probably sounding like some hippy-dippy stuff right here, but bear with me. In martial arts, many traditional martial artists understand this principle. It has names like Kiap or Kiai in certain cultures, such as shout when you punch or kick. Kiai! Hya! Things like that. You see karate guys do this. You see taekwondo guys do this. Why do they do that? To connect the breath and the movement. If you listen to professional fighters, when they're boxing, or MMA fighters, when they make these movements, they're grunting, they're hissing, they're exhaling with the movement. They're connecting the movement to their breath. And notice the breath is emulating the type of movement that they want to have. In very much the same way that the words we speak have the potential to help shape our actions. They do not replace our actions. They have the potential to help shape them. And also the actions of others, potentially. But we have to connect the movement with the voice in order for that to happen. It's not enough to be a sayer of the word. You must be a doer of the word. So we must speak the truth, and we must do the truth together. So right now you've been living in a state where you are afraid to not just breathe deeply, but to express your true self, to express your true truth, to find your true voice. So let's do some breathing exercises. Breathe in through your nose as much as you can until you reach that point where, the top of your your lungs, maybe right behind the sternum just kind of stops, and it's like, yeah, no more is going to enter. And then suck in more air through your mouth. It's going to sound kind of weird like this. And then you'll find your chest inflates even more. And then exhale through your throat. Make some noises. People will look at you, and that's okay. Do it again. Breathe in through your nose. Then in through your mouth, and then out through your throat. Do it again. Nose, mouth, out through the throat. Yeah, that sounds kind of funny, right? Now, that's not the way we're going to go about our everyday, just walking from here to there, going about town, breathing, but maybe give it a try once in a while. See how people do look at you. Maybe that can help you get over the anxiety that you are experiencing that has been holding you back from taking the deep breaths that your body needs. But at the very least, while you are by yourself, take those deep breaths in through the nose, mouth, out through the throat, and own that. Feel the air coming in and feel the remainder of the oxygen. Absorb as much as you can through each breath through the throat on the way out as well. Hold it in the lungs for a little bit. Savor it for a little bit. And now, when you start to move, you'll find the breath starts to create a rhythm. And we must combine the rhythm of movement with the rhythm of breath. So let's say you're boxing, for example. You're moving about. You have a rhythm in your feet. You got a little bounce in your step, right? And we punch. There's music to it. There's music to the breath. And when you understand breathing rhythmically with your body in a way that helps your body to move the way that it needs to move at the time it needs to move, you'll find that cardio is largely an illusion. Yeah, I said it. I've said it before on this channel. The great cardio myth, this idea that you need to run for an hour a day, otherwise, if you spar or train athletically, you'll just poop out, that's simply not true. You need to adapt your breath to very specific athletic movement. And fighting is very different athletic movement than running or jogging or skipping rope. Now, all of that stuff, it won't make you worse at fighting, but it's not going to establish the correct breathing patterns for fighting. Movement is based on breath. You need to breathe the way you want to move. We need to exhale. Focus on the exhale when you are moving. Now, we did some inhaling exercises together, those deep breaths, that Valsuva breathing method, however you pronounce it. I probably mispronounced that word. Weightlifting friends, let me know in the comments down below how to pronounce that correctly. But breathe in through the nose, in through the mouth, out through the throat, right? We're going to breathe differently when we fight, when we train. When we train, we're in a hyperventilating state, meaning you're just going to be sucking in the air automatically. You don't have conscious control over that at that point when your heart's racing, saying, give me more of that air, give me more oxygen. And if we don't control consciously the exhale, then we get into a bit of a funk and we lose our breath. We get out of breath and we just, and we feel like we have to stop. But guess what? You don't have to stop if you consciously control the outward breath, the exhaling. So, one of the easiest ways to do this with striking is to exhale percussively when you strike, when you throw a punch. Huss! Breathe out. Hum! Breathe out. Psst! Breathe out. Hum! Breathe out. Kya! Breathe out. Hum, hum, pa, hum, pa, pa, pa. Sing yourself a little song. Hum yourself a little tune. Hem and haw a little bit. Hum! From the diaphragm down underneath your ribs, in your guts. That's where we want to exhale. Not from the throat, not from the nose. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we can project sounds from the throat, we can project sounds from the nose. You ever heard those people who try to sound like a nerd? What do? They talk through their nose. Oh, I'm a nerd. Listen to me. Oh, I like math and stuff because I'm a nerd. What did I just do there? I projected the air out through the sinuses up here in my nose, in my nasal cavities. And then sometimes people, especially when they get angry, their throats get really tight and they start to project from their throat, and they'll be like, and they'll shout like that. And that's all coming from the throat. But live down here in your belly a little bit. That belly that you have been self-conscious to inflate. Take some big belly breaths or some shallow belly breaths. Exhale. Project that energy from your belly, if you will. Draw that breath into your belly, if you will. Which probably sounds antithetical to modern understanding of human anatomy, since the lungs, we have these bronchial tubes connecting here, and then they pretty much fill the torso, right? They go up and down. Sections of the lungs are up top, sections of the lungs are down below. And then we have these muscles, the diaphragm under the lungs, which can push up, pull down, expand, etc. So we're not actually consciously controlling the lungs, we're consciously controlling the muscles around them that influence the lungs and influence the expression of air, pushing the air out and holding the air in. So, take deep breaths. People will look at you, or they won't. Most of the time, most of those people out there that we think are looking at us are not, and if they are, they don't care. Because almost everybody out there, most people out there, are in a very similar situation to you. You might be thinking, no, everybody's not fat. I'm not talking about that. Self-conscious, meaning they're thinking about themselves when they go out there and they look at other people. They are often having these judgments, these evaluations. What are these other people thinking about me? Me. Me, 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 me. That's what they're thinking. And when we focus on the me, 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 what happens? Where do you live in your body? A lot of people feel like they live up here in their head, somewhere in their frontal sinuses, behind their eyes, up here in this area, in their brain. And that's a very me, 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 me type of awareness, of self-consciousness. What does your voice sound like? What does your voice sound like? I'm curious. Is it high-pitched? Is it low-pitched? Is it relaxed? Is it nasally? Is it stressed? How does your voice sound? That is largely a reflection of how you are feeling. And you can change your life by changing the way you breathe, and changing the way you breathe will change your voice. And some people might think, oh, that's disingenuous. If you do one thing for a very long time, you have to keep doing that forever and ever and ever. Amen. But we're here to make positive changes, aren't we? We're here to make positive changes in the way we move, right? Nobody complains about that. Like, hey, you couldn't do backflips before, and now you can do backflips. That's disingenuous. No. People are like, whoa, good job, you. That's progress. If you change the way you eat from a garbage diet to a clean, healthy, whole foods diet, people notice some positive changes. Hey, you lost some weight. You look better. I feel better. People applaud that, right? They don't say, oh, you're different than you were before, so that's disingenuous. No, they recognize you made some progress. If you improve your sleeping schedule and you don't wake up in a foul mood every morning because you're sleep deprived and you go to work like, I need to drink a bunch of caffeine before I feel like a normal human again. Right now I'm going to be an evil troll to everybody. People are not going to poo-poo you if you make a positive change and turn into a positive person in the morning. They're going to applaud that. If you change your attitude, your thoughts, and you start thinking positive thoughts that propel you in a positive direction, people see those changes and they applaud. So don't be afraid of changing your breathing too, because you know what that does? That changes everything else. In fact, I should probably put breathing first on that list. How long can we live without food? Quite a while. Some people can go for months without food, without starving to death. How long can we go without exercise before we die? Some people never exercise a day in their life and live to be 100. Sure, they move around, but yeah, they don't go to the gym or whatever. How about positive thoughts? There are some foul-minded people out there who never think a good thing about anybody in their lives, let alone themselves. And they don't die from it, it doesn't seem. But breath, how long can you go without breathing before you die? Not very long. Not very long. You wouldn't last the length of this video. You'd be dead by now without breathing. How important is that? And how urgent is it to change your breathing in a positive direction if it's not right now? If you are suppressing the main ingredient in your body that keeps you alive from moment to moment because you're afraid people will look at you, look at yourself introspectively. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and breathe and train.